Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Real and Raw. Today I have with me someone who has become a very big part of my village, and I've actually known him since I was 15 years old, so it's been a minute. He's someone I look up to and I have a lot of respect for on so many levels, and today you're going to find out a little bit why. So today we are going to discuss being single parents. I'm a single mom and he's a single dad, and we're going to discuss that and all the ups and downs that come with it. So welcome, Joe, to Real and Raw.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So tell me a little bit about yourself and where you are today.
So where am I at today? I am a single father of two. Damien, who is turning 11 this year. Oh my God.
Crazy.
And Aaliyah, who's turning 7 this year, and it still blows my mind. I'm like, wow, how old am I? Oh, I'm only 33. Okay. I'm part owner of Sargent's Roofing, named after, obviously, my last name, Joe Sargent.
Yeah.
Owned that now for 6 years. My best friend, Adam, who you know, too.
Yep.
A lot of people out there actually might know him too. I have a girlfriend now.
Okay.
I'm divorced. Was divorced 2 years ago.
Okay.
Everything was finalized. Got full custody of the kids, which I know we're going to talk about. That
For sure.
How often does that happen?
That's right, yeah.
What else?
That's right. Your situation, I find, is typically reversed in the experience that I've had. So it's a little different having the male on this side of it, but I love it because I'm sure there's people out there that can definitely relate to this. Tell me a little bit about when you were married and your marriage and how it got to where you are now.
Met her when I was 23. She was 21. Got together with her. We were together total for 8 years, so almost a decade, which still blows my mind.
Yeah.
We were together for 6, and then got married. We were married for 2, and then divorced. Separated, then divorced. What else? I'm just trying to think. What else? Sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
What else?
Two kids in that process.
Yeah, 2 kids.
Okay.
I'm just running through it in the back of my head right now. So we went through the whole ups and downs. Like when you get together with someone that young, you're 23, you have no idea what life is. Like you have no idea, right? Like you make a decision at 23. When you're 33, that decision looks like a pretty dumb idea. But at the end of the day, you look back at that and you're like, okay, I made some mistakes. Definitely not wanting to repeat those mistakes.
For sure.
Right? Some people repeat the same mistake over and over. Some people don't. I'm not the type of person that wants to repeat the same mistake.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So
being young and having kids, did you find that was extremely difficult?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely difficult because like when you're 23, you're at that point in time in your life where you have no idea what it is you're doing.
Right.
Like I was working for a roofing company called Lakeside Roofing at the time, and didn't know what I was doing in my life. I got into it, got really good at it, started at the bottom, worked up all the way to being supervisor, and then the company got sold, and then the person that they sold the company to, I basically didn't respect because he knew nothing about the industry really. He was just a rich kid, quote unquote, that bought a roofing company and thought it was a turnkey business that he could just walk into and make a bunch of money. And hey, here's Joe, run it. And it's like, okay, and I'm getting paid a wage, and it didn't sit right with me.
Right.
So that was around 25, I made the decision to open up Sargent's Roofing because at that point in time, 25, you have a family, you're like, man, I gotta do something. Gotta figure this out. Life is hard, right? Like you got a condo to pay for, you got kids to pay for, you got all this stuff to pay for, and things aren't getting cheaper.
For sure,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so I opened up Sargent's Roofing, and then that was a gamble all on its own because being a parent at that time, that's when I was with my wife and we had the kids together and we were a family, and when you make that plunge,
How did that affect your marriage? Was she like fully on board? Was she scared? Because that's a huge financial.
That was a huge risk,
too,
and it was all on me because she was stay-at-home mom.
Right.
So once that's like double, triple the pressure because you're just like, oh my God, okay, I need to do something, but this isn't a certain thing. So in the beginning, she was on board.
Yeah.
We were still young, so it's like trying to actually like think of the financial stress that it could bring and actually realizing the consequences at the time in a 25-year-old's brain and her being a 23-year-old brain. You don't really have the full understanding of what that could entail. Yeah. So that definitely put a strain on the marriage, but I didn't give up, and she was there, but she wasn't. She was kind of on board, but not fully.
Right.
Like she didn't understand exactly how much work it takes to actually do a startup.
I don't think anyone does until you're in it.
Oh.
Like, it's almost like the vision, the dream just sounds so good that you think, oh, we're going to be rich right away and everything's going to succeed. But starting from the ground up, it doesn't work that way.
Not at all.
Right.
You're putting in substantial hours, like triple that of any normal 9-to-5 worker.
For sure.
You're working like 100+ hours a week.
Yeah.
This is the stuff.
And not really making money.
You're not making
because
money
it
at
goes
all.
right back into the business.
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? So you have your wife in your ear, and she's just like, "I never see you. You're not spending time with the kids, and blah blah blah." And then you're in this situation where you're like, "Well, just hold on, please. Like, understand where I'm coming from, because this is what I'm doing for the kids to give us financial security down the line, right?" So
the time was hard to balance.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Because like when you're an entrepreneur who actually has a family, or at least starting a family, you're torn, because obviously your kids and your family matter to you, but your business matters as well. You can't have one without the other. Like,
and you're doing the business for the family.
Exactly. So you got to put into that business as much as you possibly can without driving your wife or whoever, your significant other, completely nuts, or at least try not to.
Right.
And also not completely neglect your kids.
How did it affect your kids? Did you notice? Because they were quite young when you started.
Yeah, they were pretty young, so it didn't affect them too much, because like they got used to the fact that Dad was working all the time. They didn't really know what I was doing, which kind of sucked. But when they got older, now they kind of had an idea. They're like, "Oh, Dad actually is working," so that kind of upped their respect for me. Because I know with me, when I was growing up, like my dad, he was always working. Right. So you never see Dad. Dad's always working, providing for the family, unless it's like a weekend or something like this. And you're like, "Hey, Dad's the fun parent. Yeah, you get to see him." So that's where they were at. So it didn't really affect them too much. But I know it affected like my wife at the time. It did a lot, because she was at home with the kids tons, and then I'm out doing estimates, doing work, doing absolutely everything, leaving at like 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning, not coming home until like 9:30, 10 o'clock sometimes. And then doing that for years. Right. That's not just 1 year. That's a stint. So it was a huge challenge, but at the end of it all, it worked out in the long run for me. It still is working out. Like, it's still a challenge, but our whole relationship basically fell apart, not just because of that, but there was other reasons too. Right.
So fast forward now. So I'm sure when they were younger, it was, I don't want to say easy that you worked that much, but it was a little bit more comforting knowing that your wife was at home with the kids and they at least had their mom and they were there. Fast forward now, and tell me what that situation looks like now.
Okay, so now, being a single dad of two, which has its own challenge, which we'll talk about, but I'm on the tail end of the startup of the business. We're at year 6 now. So now all the systems and processes are in place. I'm focusing on replacing myself in the business, because I have to make my family a priority, especially at the age that they're at right now. And I have a new girlfriend now too, who wants to be a part of my world, and I gotta invest into her, right? So it's the challenge. The hours still have to be put in to a point, but it's setting up your boundaries for yourself to replace yourself in the business, to be able to allow yourself to then have that time. That's the challenge. It's not impossible. The kids do see me. I've been investing in them a lot more, and we've been doing a lot more hobbies like boxing and stuff like that. And but yeah, it's not easy. You lose your sanity more than a couple times, I can tell you that. Right.
So we touched a little bit on, I feel like your situation is backwards a little bit into what we usually hear about or what we know about typically. So tell me a little bit why it is backwards and why I'm saying that.
Okay. So with my situation, it's not very often a male ends up getting full custody of his kids. So my ex-wife, near the tail end of our relationship, made some unsavory decisions.
Right.
Ended up getting mixed up with drugs and becoming a sex worker and all this kind of stuff, which that's tough. But it's oh man, this is just bringing back so many memories. It's okay, so ask the question one more time, sorry.
So usually the
roles
being
are reversed. Yeah.
So why is it reversed, I guess?
It's reversed, yeah. So like most times, usually it's the woman that gets the custody, the guy falls off the wagon, becomes an alcoholic, is a every second weekend kind of dad.
Right. Yep.
Or is completely absent altogether,
Yep.
not paying child support and all that stuff.
For sure.
So with my situation, it's the exact opposite, where I got full custody, fought for the kids, took them away because I saw the situation that they were in with my my ex-wife at the time, and fought tooth and nail. My business partner, best friend Adam, he helped me out with all the paperwork and whatnot, and him and I went toe to toe with the system, so to speak.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And got absolutely everything. And my ex-wife owes me child support, which she hasn't paid a single dime.
Right.
No support whatsoever. Doesn't see the kids, so on and so forth. She's trying to get her life back on track, understandably so.
Right.
But that's where it's completely reversed.
Switched. Yeah.
And like being a single dad has its challenges because like it goes against male's nature in general.
Right.
Like that's the challenge that I find and face. Like
on the emotional side of things, right?
Yeah, on the emotional side. Like it's because like naturally I'm not a nurturing person.
Right.
Most males aren't.
Right.
Like it goes. And I'm not saying that a male can't be nurturing.
Right. Of course.
Like,
yeah.
I can be nurturing, but it goes against the nature, so it takes a lot more energy to then do it.
Right. It doesn't come naturally as it does from mom, typically.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's where it's very draining, and energy's a finite thing where you're like, okay, I'm doing something that I'm not normally doing, so this is consciously me engaging, having to actually do this, and it just sucks you dry.
Right.
That's one of the huge challenges of being a single dad, I can say. Like, one of the number one is going against your nature, but
right.
I enjoy it. I love my kids 1,000%, 1,000%, and they're thriving as a result.
Yeah.
But I know it's something that I can't do forever on my own.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about the dating scene now, if
Sure,
you're
if you
liking
want
to.
to,
So
yeah.
like I knew when I got my kids, I knew I was gonna have to find a partner.
Right.
To be a positive female role model in their life, especially knowing that their mom basically turned her back and went down a road that she just couldn't come back from without help. So there's no female role model in their life. So I was like, okay. So when you get into the dating scene with that in mind, you're not just now choosing a mate for yourself.
Right.
You're now choosing a mate for your kids as well.
Right.
Right? So you have to literally consciously choose your mate.
Right.
Which, when we split, I didn't fully understand at that time.
Okay.
Because man, going through the emotions of a divorce
Is unreal.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough because and it's something that people who have never been will give you the advice and this
Of
and
course.
that, and it's like, hey, you know what, you've never been, so you don't know how you're emotionally gonna react. Like
Right.
you just don't
You
until you
don't.
do it.
Yeah.
So we split, and that was when we split, and I didn't have custody of the kids at the time. And when we split, literally, it's like your whole world comes to an end because you're like, you go from being the leader of your family, right? Daddy, kids, the whole shebang, family head, to then kids are gone, wife's gone, and you're on your own, and your identity is just gone, right? So it's like you're sitting there contemplating life. Honest to God, I was bedridden because of stress for 5 months, where I lost 40 pounds. Beth and Adam, two of my best friends who work for me as well, they saw me, they thought I had cancer.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Because you're sitting there, honestly, you're driving yourself insane because you're laying there and all these thoughts are running through your head and you're like, oh my God, okay, what do I do now? Oh my God. someone else. I don't want my kids calling some other guy dad.
Oh, yeah.
Like
That's
that ran through my
hard,
head. I
yes,
was like,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I don't want that. I am dad. Like that's what was running through my head, and it's like, because just the uncertainty of not knowing who's going to be in their life,
it's scary.
no control
And
whatsoever.
you don't have control over it. That
Exactly.
person is gonna pick.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Drove
for
me
sure.
absolutely nuts, right? So I was like laying in bed, just going through all this in my head for like 6 months because this was during winter, right? Winter was slow during roofing
Right.
season, so I have nothing but time. So when you have those thoughts running through your head and time to allow those thoughts to run through your head, you're driving yourself basically insane. But on the flip side, it was therapeutic because then I got to basically process properly,
Right. Deal
go
with the
through it,
emotions.
deal with it, as
Yeah.
opposed to self-medicate like a lot of people do.
For sure.
And like avoid it.
Yeah.
I took it head on, and it was significantly tough, but
So what got you out of bed after 5 months of feeling like that and feeling that low, and what clicked for you? What made you go, enough is enough, I gotta get up and I gotta live my life now?
roofing season started for one, so having the business was the other purpose, right?
Right.
So that was like, that's do or die. Like I have to do that. That's ingrained in me now because that's my baby. So no matter what, I have to do that.
Right.
But then another thing that got me out of that funk was when my ex-wife made the decision to then move the kids and her into a person's house that isn't a very savory person either, that I
Right.
look at and I'm like, what?
Right.
Like
I don't
was,
want my kids there.
hell no.
Yeah.
So I'm like, my eyes twitching right now thinking about it. Like, oh my God. But yeah, so then I was like, no, this is not happening.
Right.
Like, it's not happening. So literally it was okay, because we were separated for a year. Once that happened, she like moved them into the house
Right.
during that year. And as soon as that year was up, because you got to wait a year to be able to file for divorce,
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm going to file for divorce and I'm filing for custody and the whole shebang. Like, I'm taking
Right.
it all. And so that was what got me up. And Adam was another part of that too. Like, he has been my rod, so to
Yeah.
speak, through this
You played
whole
a big role. Yeah.
huge role.
Yeah.
Huge role. I don't even know what I would have done. I would have been in debt hundreds of thousands of dollars because lawyer fees are ridiculously
unreal, yeah.
expensive. And he saved me whack loads of money. He's put hours upon hours upon hours of figuring out all the paperwork and
Yeah.
everything. And we went together. He came with me to all the court appearances and everything like that. Helped me out with that.
Tell us a little bit about that. You don't have to go into it too much, but touch a little bit, because I know we've talked about being a man coming in, a colored man coming in, fighting for kids against, a woman, and
Yeah.
and those challenges were hard for you to face in that time.
Super scary.
Yeah.
So prior to this whole situation, I've never been to court, ever.
Yeah.
And I know what I look like. I know the tall, 6'6",
Yeah.
colored exterior. There's a stereotype that goes along with that, and I know
Right.
I face that, and it's a challenge that I will always have to deal with.
Right.
And so we all know the stereotype of the court system favoring women.
Right.
Everyone knows that. When you go there and mention that, they kind of scoff at it, and they're like, no, that's not that way. And it's like,
Right.
I've sat in court after the fact now, and we've seen certain cases get swayed to the woman very easily, where you're like, really? Like, how does that even make sense? But I don't even need to get into that.
Right.
But anyways, so like the first step was when we went downtown to the Brownlee building to file all the paperwork. It's a very intimidating place for one, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I have no idea. Like, you're going through all the emotions like you're a basket case. I was like, my brain was scrambled eggs, and
Right.
I'm glad I had someone there that could basically hold my hand through the whole process,
Right.
who understood all that, no problem.
Right.
But then you have, like, to put it into perspective, Adam, so everyone knows, is 6'2", 300 pounds.
Yeah, you guys aren't exactly
Okay.
small guys.
And I'm 6'6", 240 pounds. So like, you have two big dudes
Right.
come into the Brownlee building, come up to the desk where it's all women, all women. You tell them the situation, and they're looking at you like,
Yeah, right.
you're trying to take your kids away from your ex-wife, you jackass of a human being. Like, they have that look of judgment on their face, whether they want to admit it or not. It is what it is, because it's 80.
And because you don't see it as often.
Exactly.
Right.
So then the first time we went in there, it was very uncomfortable. Then we did all the paperwork, filed it, served my ex-wife at the time. She didn't respond or anything.
Right.
So then we went in there the second time, and then that's when they were super helpful. Because they're like, oh,
if you're not lying.
So she's not even fighting for her kids.
Right.
Interesting. And then that's when it flipped, because that's when they're like, oh my God, okay, this is for real.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they basically walked us through the whole process, which was fantastic. But every single time, the first appearance that I had in court, I couldn't even talk. Like, I stood in front of the judge. I felt like my stomach was in my throat. My palms were sweaty. Adam was sitting in the benches back there just watching, and I'm just sitting there like looking at the judge like, oh my God, she's gonna slaughter me. Like, she's not gonna listen to anything I'm saying.
Right.
Never, like, I've never been in a situation of being in front of a judge, right? So I couldn't even think.
That's intimidating as it
was,
is, let alone fighting for your littles.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a scary process. But after now that I've been through it, and the one thing that Adam's always said, and I agree with, what's right is what's right.
Yeah. So,
like, for anyone out there that's going through something similar like this, you just got to hold on to the fact that what's right is what's right.
Right.
And people will respond to that when they know that you're actually doing what's right, as opposed to being one of those people that just wants to be vindictive and just be a dick. You know what I mean?
Where there's lots of people like that.
Exactly.
Sure.
And that's not the situation that I was doing at all.
Yeah.
Right? And so now people finally saw it, and then they walked us through the whole process, and I was like, okay, thank God.
Right.
Right? So.
Yeah. And you were also somebody, you supported your ex a
Yeah.
lot. Even when she was struggling. You never, as much as you took the kids to protect them, anytime she wanted to call, anytime she wanted you were there. You had your boundaries, of course, and she had to be sober, she had those things to protect your kids. But what a lot of people don't know or see, I guess, probably from you, is that you helped her, and you helped her get into rehab, and you were there, you encouraged her.
Yeah.
You did a lot, and you stood by her, even after you were split. So tell me what that was like for you, balancing, I gotta protect my children, but I really want their mom to succeed. I really want their mom to get better so that my kids have a mom. How did you balance that emotionally?
Whew. That was tough, because after we split, like, call me old-fashioned, like, I don't know, like, I like, if I decide to be with someone, I don't want to just immediately turn my back on them, especially when you have kids. Like, you can't. It's not the right thing to do. Right? So, like, I wanted to pay for a vehicle still, insurance, cell phone, the whole shebang, and then still pay child support at the time when she had the kids and I was still focusing on my business. Trying to balance dealing with the emotions and then protecting the kids and all that at the same time, it was almost impossible. Because literally, like, for your kids, you got to be strong and show them that you're not crumbling, but on the same sense, they're going to ask questions, and you have to have answers to the best that you can. And so, like, they asked me so many times, like, when are we going to see mom? Like, after I had them full time. Yeah. And I'm like, the only answer that I could come up with to try and censor them was, mom right now needs help. She went down a path that she is having a hard time coming back from. She's made some bad decisions in that regard. And she needs to learn how to be an adult to take care of herself before she can even think twice about taking care of you guys. So this is, and I told him, like, you see how dad is going to work every day and paying bills and stressing and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's a part of life, but mom needs to figure that out as well. So, like, that's what I basically told them. But it's, it was tough. It was super tough, because what happens when you're dealing with that is you're not just carrying your own personal emotions at that time either. You're carrying theirs, which a lot of people don't understand either. And hers. Because then when you're dealing with an ex-wife who you are trying to do the right things for, but her perspective is that you're the asshole that took my kids away from
Right.
me, and I'm the victim, and
Right.
whatever, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
the whole song and dance. That in itself is weighing, because then you almost get tricked into thinking that you are
Right.
a bad person.
Yes.
You're like, fuck, am I actually a bad person?
Right.
Like, am I actually, like, you actually start questioning it. You're like,
Right. Am I protecting my kids, or
Yeah.
is this being vindictive?
yeah,
for
and it's
sure.
like, and then that's when it's like, man, I gotta get some perspective with this. Like, I've
Right.
had to talk to so many people about that, where I'm like, okay, people who I know, I need some help, I need perspective,
Right.
because I'm starting to lose it here. I'm like, I'm actually thinking, am I a bad guy? And it's like, no.
Right.
And that was the important thing about having the right people around you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because like I've come to you, we had some huge talks about that. Adam, same deal.
Yeah.
Beth, same deal. Another friend of mine, and gained perspective knowing that it's like, okay, I actually am doing the right thing, and she actually is just reacting to try and bring me down to her level because she feels bad in what she's done, type of deal.
Right.
Right?
So during this process, some people might not know, I took care of your kids
Yep.
for a season of roofing
Mhm.
and had them for many hours during the day. And great kids, I loved them, loved having them. But we noticed through that summer, Damien, your oldest, is an extremely intelligent young boy. He's kind of wise beyond his years, is what I always said. He was very mature for his age. Something we noticed is that he kind of started shutting down. He stopped kind of talking. He wouldn't talk about his mom. He would avoid it. He didn't want to engage in many things.
Yeah.
How did you, as a dad, watching your son, and you know, boys they tend to be told you can't have emotions, you can't cry, you gotta be strong, you gotta whatever, which I think is garbage in itself. But how did you help Damien go through that and learn that, listen, it's okay to open up, it's okay to talk, and you don't have to hide all of this on your own? How did you help guide him through that when you struggle yourself, you said, with being the nurturing side of you?
I've had to look for outside sources that it's in their nature to be a lot more nurturing, and assist, like, trust in the fact that my judgment, I can look at them and say, like, for yourself, you're a good person, and I can see you love my kids, okay, and we can have a talk. And then basically, after you talked with them, then I could give my take on it.
Right.
And then that's basically how I talked to him in that regard, reaffirming everything that you said or whoever else said.
Right.
From a female's perspective. Because I've had talks with them more than a few times, but I know it always lands a lot harder from a female to him. Because I know sons have a hard time opening up to their dads.
Right. And he was close to his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boys are always mama's boys. Most times, right?
So I love having boys.
Like, I'm an only child, so like, I always had a hard time opening up to my dad. My mom, I could, but my dad, it was hard, and I know that with Damien, like, he has a hard time opening up, but when he does, I'm always there to be like, okay, here's the answers for your questions, so he knows that I'm being upfront with him. Right. It's a huge challenge.
It is. He's better now. Like, he's come a long way since then. Yeah. But does he still struggle a lot with it, or is he more like?
He almost has an unnatural understanding of the whole situation.
Smart boy. He's smart.
It's almost scary.
Yeah.
How much of an understanding that boy has about this whole situation.
Right.
Like.
And the thing is kids aren't dumb. Parents like to think, my kid has no idea, my child doesn't know. But kids pick up on things that we would never even think they would notice.
Oh yeah. He's a lot better now knowing that I'm not going anywhere, because now the security is there.
That was a fear for him.
Yeah. It's been a few years. I would never turn my back on my kids, even when I wasn't their full-time parent, and it was reversed. Anytime I had a day off during the week, I'd go take him out for ice cream, do this, take him out, do whatever, over and above the designated every second weekend type of thing. Right. And then I'd call basically almost every day, FaceTime type of deal. So it's he has now the security of knowing that I'm not going anywhere, which was definitely huge for him. But
it's a process.
It's a huge process, and it's never going to end. That's the thing.
It's not.
You know what I mean? Because he gets older, and as he gets older, and as she gets older too, both of them, like him and Aaliyah, they're going to have questions. Sure. You have to have answers. You can't lie to them. Right. You can only basically tell them
age-appropriate stuff,
right? the entire time so they
Right.
know what's going on.
For
As
sure.
far as Damien and his mom goes, it's like she's just recently started calling and reaching out because now she's back at home with her mom. Like her
Yeah.
mom basically kidnapped her and took her to BC.
Yeah.
To basically be like, Kate,
Get
see
better.
ya. You're
Right.
forcefully now at jail now with
Right.
us here, and now you're getting better.
Right.
But now the thing with Damien is it's almost gone to the point where he doesn't care when she calls.
Wow.
It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's in his head, he's like, I could see it. He's just like, woman, you abandoned me.
You left.
You left.
Right.
You left me for another guy, basically, like
Right.
your boyfriend. See you
Right.
later. And dad has us and has been struggling to take care of us.
Right.
Like, don't let Facebook fool you with Sergeant's Roofing and all this. It's a grind. Like
Right.
it is,
Yeah, for sure it
1,000%,
is.
right? And anytime she calls, like Aaliyah gets excited because
Yeah.
she's so
She's
young,
and
right?
yeah, that's her mommy.
Damien has almost no interest talking to his mom on the phone.
So how do you handle that? Because I know you're somebody that wants that relationship
Yeah.
between their mom and them, and that's something that's been important to you from day one that all of
Mhm.
this started happening. So how do you handle, I guess, acknowledging how Damien's feeling and not forcing him into something that he's not ready for, but also like encouraging him to still keep that relationship with his mom? How do you balance that with him, especially a boy?
In the beginning, I kind of would force it when she tried calling in the beginning, but then
Right.
I saw how uncomfortable it was making him, and I could only do it a few times before I'm like, well, I can't make him do it. Like, he's at the age now where he's going to make his own decision.
Right.
He's going to have his own opinions.
Right?
Doesn't matter what I say.
Yep.
I could say to him all day, your mom loves you, she's
Right.
not going to turn her back, she'll always be there for you, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
the whole song and dance. I can say all that.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
But he feels different
Exactly.
because his world is different
Exactly. The
Right.
parent who's there is the one
Right.
that matters to him. So
than right.
it's dealing with those emotions. It's tough because he's already an introverted person as it is.
Right. Yeah,
Like
he is,
hugely introverted.
Yeah.
Aaliyah's the exact opposite. She
Yeah.
will tell you. She will tell you everything that she's feeling and then some.
That's true.
But Damien, it's like you gotta almost get in his head and like know what he's thinking and try to ask him the
Right.
right questions
Yeah.
to try and bring it out of him.
Definitely.
And that's a challenge on its own.
For sure.
Especially when you're a single parent, because you know you're supposed to do it, but then it's very hard to then do that when you're busy working all day.
Yeah.
Then you gotta clean, then cook, and
Yeah.
then at the end of that day, try to dial in and have the energy to then have that
Right.
talk, which it's like.
When it's like
It's-
pulling teeth with Damien, it's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
harder.
not. It's,
yeah.
it's not an easy thing, and so
Right.
you're just like, oh my god, you want to give it the energy that it deserves, but it's like, when can you?
Right.
That's why it's always like, I firmly believe you should have two parents, 1,000%. That's how I was
Right.
raised. It's so because then
It's
that
important.
way you can support each other, and then
Yes.
the other parent can take care of this little thing, and then you can focus on stuff like that
For sure.
and divvy up the amount of energy
Yeah.
that you're expelling, right?
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think that just kind of, for me, I want people to understand, first of all, your situation, you have gone through a lot with
Mhm.
what she has gone through and dealing with it, but you're still so pro having her in their life. You just want her healthy in their life.
1,000%.
And what I want people to understand is that people need to put down their anger,
Mhm.
their vengeance against their ex, because it's not about them. You
Mhm.
guys didn't work for whatever reason that might be, but your kids should be the focus. Your kids should be the main goal always. And you have to set that stuff aside. And for anyone who knows me, I do divorce very differently than what most people do.
Should be done that way.
Right.
You're the forefront of how it should be done.
Thank you, yes. And it's hard. I'm not saying that it's easy, especially when you try to date and have to explain to your partner, so my baby dads are around a lot. But to me,
Ooh, yeah.
I've seen the benefits of my kids, and they're more well-rounded, I feel, than I see a lot of kids that go through divorce and what their parents do. And, something that I actually saw, it was this little girl, and she was being just asked questions. She was in an interview, and she said, I don't love myself. And they said, well, why? Why do you not love yourself? She said, well, my daddy always tells me that my mom is bad, and my mom is mean, and my mom is this and that. Well, I'm half of my mom. So that means my dad hates half of
Yeah,
me.
the internal struggle.
And then she
Yeah.
said the other side of her mom. Her mom does the same thing about her dad. So she said, if they both hate half of me, what good am I?
Yeah, they hate me.
And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. And for me, I was like, that's not going to be my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't talk negatively about their dads to them. Going through the divorce, as you know, was an extremely difficult emotional process.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times, don't get me wrong, I wanted to come home and be like, your dad's an asshole, I hate your dad,
Yep.
dad, and just lose it. But you can't do that.
Yep.
Or he pisses me off and I'm like, you're not going to see your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do that because you feel angry and you want to hurt them the way they hurt you. But listen, you need to put that stuff down. You need to understand that you're going to do more damage to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you should love your kids more than you hate your ex.
Exactly.
And
I
for
couldn't
you,
agree
you've gone
more.
through it pretty difficult. You've gone through
Yeah.
more than even I have through a divorce. And you still have that vision. You still have that goal of one day having her healthy
Mhm.
and being with her kids.
That's the way it should be because I want that for them because they deserve
sure.
that. Because it's not.
100%.
I could say this: like she, in her prime,
Yeah.
was a good mom.
Right.
1,000%. I can
Right.
say 1,000%. All that Damien is,
Yeah.
as far as his smarts,
Yeah.
entirely comes from her.
Mm.
1,000%. Because
Right.
I was gone working doing
Right.
startup. Like I was gone most of the time.
And
so-
that's huge for you to even acknowledge
Oh
that.
yeah. I like it's tough. It's tough to say, but it's true.
Right.
Like 1,000%. Then Aaliyah came around, and then that's when things started going downhill. And
Right.
then the Aaliyah got a little bit neglected in the motherly front
Mm.
for whatever reason. I can't
Yeah.
speak to that, but it's a tough vision to hold because like you said, there's times you just want to just when your kids bring up their mom.
Right.
And they're just like, mom this, mom that, whatever.
Yeah.
You just want to be like, you know what? Your mom. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no,
Right.
she's not even doing anything.
Right.
Like, anything.
Yes.
Like, no, but
What
you
about
can't.
me?
Actually, though,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
there's just times you just want to lose it sometimes because
Yeah.
it's like everybody goes through the daily struggle.
For sure.
Right? You're
Yeah.
going to have your good days, you're going to have your bad days. You're going to wake up exhausted. You still got to go to work. You still got to
Right.
pay bills. You still worry about finances, all that
All
stuff.
of it. Yeah.
Right? And then on top of that, when you have the stresses of now dealing with that and the
Right.
kids, it's like,
It's a lonely feeling.
oh man, like
Yeah.
it's unreal.
Yeah.
And it's like I still hold on to the vision because the kids deserve it.
Right.
And I do believe in law of attraction. You gotta have some kind of hope,
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't, then the kids will sense that.
For sure.
And the last thing I want to do is like make it hopeless for them because that might crush them.
Right.
So it's like, okay, carrying that weight and that load, and then on top of that, trying to date at the same time. That,
Heavy.
oh my God, that was a struggle all on its own.
It is.
Oh,
So before we get into that,
Yeah.
talk to me about your lowest point. I know you and I have had this,
Okay.
and the reason I want to touch on this is because men have a really tough time opening up.
Mhm.
Men have a really tough time being honest and being vulnerable, reaching out for help when they need it.
Oh yeah.
And I want men out there to know that they're not the only ones going through this. They're not the only ones that can feel this way, and
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of what to do to get past that. So talk to me about your lowest point and how you got past it.
Okay, so lowest point. Lowest point was, holy Christ. Okay, so after we split and I moved back into the condo that I owned, like our family condo that we built the family up,
Right.
I had to move back into that. She kept the kids at the house that we were at. So I was in my condo all by myself, no kids,
Oh wow.
bare necessities because I left basically everything for her. I just took the
Mm.
couch, some plates, some cutlery,
Yeah.
coffee table, and some chairs. That was basically it. And then starting from absolute scratch. And I was like, okay, fine. I make more money. I can
Right.
deal with that. Like
Right.
stuff is replaceable.
Right.
It sucks, but it is what it is. So lowest point was at that point in time when the weight of the world now comes crashing down on you. Where, like I was saying earlier, your identity is shattered.
Right.
And then going through a rediscovery process and figuring out that. And it's, how am I going to put it? At that point in time, I then got thrust back into the dating scene, right? Because I was like, okay, I'm lonely.
Right.
There's no kids.
Right.
what the F am I going to do
and
now?
you're in the family house with all the memories
Exactly.
and all I've been there, yeah.
So I'm like, how am I going to distract myself? Well, I'm going to go out and talk to some females and do the whole Tinder game and online dating and just see what's out there.
Right.
But then you kind of get lost and make bad decisions in that regard.
Right.
Because then it's like...
Because you're not thinking straight.
Exactly.
You're in a different place.
Exactly. It's like I literally took 5 steps backwards in maturity in that sense because I was like, I lost my identity and I was like, okay, well, I'm single now. What the hell? I'm a good-looking male and I made immature, bad decisions and did that. Numbed the pain by dating lots. We'll say it like that. We'll censor it. Everyone can probably piece out together what I mean, but whatever. I don't need to outright just say it. And then so once you do that for a little while, and you realize for myself that didn't fill a void, because obviously that's a hole. I was basically using that to fill a hole that was taken out of me. I love being a father. I love being a family man, having the wife, and that was my vision. I still have that vision. So that was a huge low point, and then also discovering when I was doing that, and I can speak for myself, that I almost made the mistake of falling back in the exact same type of relationship as my previous marriage, that same type of person, which was a no-no, and it didn't sit right with me. And I'm glad, because I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts about relationships, just why people do certain things, how real relationships supposed to be, because once you're in a long-term relationship with the wrong type of person, you end up starting to think that that's normal.
For sure.
Right? So then it's very easy to fall back into that routine with the wrong person again.
For sure.
Right? And I almost made that mistake. And then I listened to this podcast that talked about making a checklist and consciously choosing your partner. And that was wake up for me. I was like, okay. So that's when I was in bed again, reevaluating my life, because I was like, wow, I'm doing this whole dating thing and I'm still miserable and I was low on myself, depression. I honestly didn't think, before all this, I didn't even think depression was a real thing.
Wow.
Honestly, before I got divorced and all this, I honestly didn't think depression and anxiety was a real thing.
Really?
Then, holy Christ, that's all I can say. It was huge waves of anxiety, depression, and all this, and it was all a new feeling for me because I was so busy working all the time, putting into my dream, putting into my goal, that I didn't have time to experience any of these ups and downs. Then you experience these ups and downs and you're like, what the hell is this? Right? So.
And you got low at one point.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about those thoughts and what was going through your head.
So, never once, basically, I could now understand how people can have suicidal thoughts, because when you're laying in bed, sick, bedridden that first year, where I moved back into my condo before Christmas, so that was the first Christmas that I was separated from everybody. At that time, she still wanted me to come to the house and hang out, and that was tough. Because you have to now set your feelings aside and be in the same room with your ex, with the kids there, and try to pretend like everything's fine. It's hard. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But again,
you did it for your kids.
1000%.
Because that's what was best for your kids.
But yeah, processing all that, it was a lot. And I honestly could straight up admit I've contemplated suicide that year so many times. And it's I'm not a suicidal person. I know this. I'm not.
Right.
But it's you just don't know until you experience these kind of emotions 100%. That are the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and
that hopeless feeling.
How
is this going to get better? How is this going to get better?
Exactly. You don't know. You're when is this going to end? Where's the end game? Where's the light?
Right.
So you're laying in bed. I'm laying there, literally laying there in my bed, no TV, staring at the roof, and I'm just in my head. Then listening to some podcasts, then in my head some more, and you're just oh my God.
So what steered you from having the suicidal thoughts? Because I know there's people out there, more than would like to admit it, that have felt that at one time or thought that. What kind of helped you not actually go down that path and kind of take your mind somewhere else, not give in to those thoughts, I guess?
It's there's a few reasons actually. One, the people you surround yourself with, 1,000%, because you become the average of the people you hang out with.
For
so
sure.
having the right people around you that you can be vulnerable with, that you can talk with, and actually straight up tell them like, dude, like I honestly like want to put a bullet in my head right now. This is insane. Like what the hell is going on? And then you have that kind of conversation to be able to get it out.
Yeah.
Secondly, the kids. Because I was like, I can't do that to them. Like, there's no way. Like, it doesn't matter how hard life is. I can't do that. I can't. Because then what's going to happen? Then you ask yourself, and then you think about that. Like, what's going to happen if I go? Where are they going to go? Back to somebody who can't take care of them, or in the system, or something, right? So it's like, nope, can't do it. The business, that was the other thing.
Because it kept you busy.
Oh, yeah. I, like, anytime, like during roofing season when I had those thoughts, it's like you just can't because there's so many people counting on you. Like, because it's not just, it's like Sargent's Roofing is now at the point where it's not just me.
For sure,
It's not just serving my needs, it's serving like 15 or 20 people's needs now, right? As far as putting food on their table. So, and they're all counting on you, so you're like, holy crap. And then that takes you through a whole whackload of emotions all on its own when you feel that pressure and you're like, oh my God, it's not just my kids now that are needing me, it's everybody else, right? So, I know everyone experiences those thoughts once in a while, and like seriously, another thing that helped me, like listening to podcasts, like self-development podcasts, motivationals every morning. I am affirmations on YouTube, like getting into that type of morning routine, especially first thing in the morning.
Which they might not sink in right away, guys. Like it might not. You might listen to these podcasts and might not get a whole lot out of it, but start somewhere, right?
1,000%.
Like start listening to it, and it'll eventually start getting and sinking into you. Like emotions don't flip right away, right?
It's like I've been listening, like for myself, I've been listening to motivationals and I am affirmations prior to divorce, like years prior. Like I've been doing it steady, almost daily now for 7 years.
Wow.
And it becomes a part of you. That's another reason why I didn't go down that self-medicating, suicidal, like actually doing it type of path. Because I've listened to those things for so many years that actually does play in your head, and then you actually have that in your system to be able to then access basically when you need it. Because then when it's like when you don't need it. People might look at it just listening in the background and you're like, whatever. Like it is what it is. When you're happy, you're like, I don't really need it. But then when you're not happy, it's damn well nice to be able to access all that information that you've now put in your head and then replace the negative self-talk that's going on in your head. Like that right there, I think, other than the kids and the business, that was a huge thing for me that helped pull me out of it. And then still listening to them while I was having those thoughts, which I can say right now, it's when you're in that state of mind, you're not hugely receptive to a lot of it. Like you're not. But it's still good to go through the motions because even if you're not fully receptive, it's still playing.
And parts of it will sink in subconsciously, for
100%,
sure. So you've talked a lot about the people that you have surrounded yourself with, and I call that the village. Everybody needs a village, especially when you have kids. I know Adam has been in your life forever, since I even knew you. So how much of your village was built before, and how much have you kind of added as you've gone? Or was it the same village that you had before, is the same village you have now? And how do you choose those people? How do you pick your village?
Very good question. So my village prior, like Adam and I have been boys through thick and thin, ups and downs. He went through his own depression and stuff. And we've both been there, ride or die, like forever. Like he's my best friend, brother, like he's there, and vice versa. In the beginning stages, I did have a lot of so-called people in my village in my younger days. I cut a lot of those people out because when you're 23, 24, 25, what are people doing at that age, right? Like, hey, let's go get drunk, let's go party, let's go do this, that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I did it and enjoyed it and it was fun, 1,000%. You're blowing off steam. But you can't do that when you get older. And so, like, when you have kids, you gotta, mature up, level up, and recognize that.
For sure.
And a lot of the people that I had at that point in time were good for me at that point in time.
Right.
But I was growing now at a different pace that I needed other influences,
Yeah.
positive influences in my life. And I recognized, once again, you become the average of the people you hang out with. So the people that were going out and partying at that point in time who didn't have kids and a family, nothing wrong with it again, but I couldn't relate to them. And so then you feel alone.
Yes.
Right? Because you're like, you talk to these people and they're like, well, why don't you just get drunk? Why don't you do that?
Right.
It's like,
and that's a big thing people face when you have kids young. I had kids young too. I was 22 when I had my first.
Yeah.
And you lose a lot of people because they're in a completely different stage of life. And if you're somebody who wants to be a good parent and an involved parent, your life changes and your priorities change. But then you find the people that you thought were your friends and were like, you'll still come around once I have kids. They're like, no, because you can't relate to them anymore. They're out every single weekend, and you're like, I want to be at home with my kids. Like,
exactly.
And that's hard, and it is. I went through it too, and you feel super lonely, and you feel like you have nobody to turn to, and a lot of people go through that.
Oh, 1,000%, and that coupled with starting a business too.
Yes, yeah.
That's the other thing, right? Because when, oh man, it's tough. Like, being a parent all on its own is tough.
Yes.
Being an entrepreneur on its own is tough.
Yeah.
Combining the two, it's like damn near impossible.
And going through a divorce and going through,
it's insane. So like entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs know this, you included. It's a lonely road too.
It is.
Parenting and entrepreneurship is a lonely road, because then the thing is that you have a hard time relating to anyone who's not.
Right. Yeah.
Because they just look at you. They're like, why don't you just shut your brain off after work?
Right. Yeah.
Why are you zoning out? Like, why are you so stressed? Like, just shut your brain off. Like, you go to work, you do your thing, and you come home and just watch Netflix or do whatever. Your brain's done. It's like, it doesn't work.
It's not like that when you're an entrepreneur. Yeah.
That and then parenting as well. Like, it never stops.
Kids,
exactly. It never stops until you're like sleeping.
Yeah. And even then.
Your brain is still going insane. You start dreaming about either parenting or your business of some kind, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's tough because it's good to get rid of those kind of people.
Yes. Yeah.
Because once you shrink your circle of influence, your focus grows.
For sure.
1,000%. I recognize that too at a young age, and I went from party animal to then gone.
Right.
See ya.
Yeah.
Became almost a workaholic, and then just did that and focused on my family. That was it. I didn't go out on weekends. I didn't do nothing. But now you do that for a few years for your startup, for the business, and focusing on your family. You get to the point, especially like I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, I got to take the foot off the pedal a little bit and then focus on regaining, replenishing my village with the right kind of people now for my life, because you need to have the community, a sense of belonging. And then also focus on the family. So like right now, my focus is hanging out with like-minded people.
Yes. Yep.
Right? So people that I can relate to, family people, career-minded people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then that way you can share your problems with them. And normally when you have that in your head that you're wanting to attract that, those people then actually start coming to you and reaching out to you saying, hey man, what's up? Like, you want to come over for like wine night? We can just hang out and just talk about stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm down with that. That's way better than going out and getting effed up on at the bar and having a splitting migraine for now 4 days or something, because now we're getting older and hanging out forever.
That's right. They last 3 days.
Wine nights don't get too crazy. You just talk, share your day-to-day struggles and so on and so forth, leave empowered, and you're like, okay, I'm not alone in this struggle.
Yeah, and you can bring your kids. That's nice about having like other parents as friends and stuff like that. When you bring your kids, they're not like, why are you bringing your kids?
Exactly.
Like, they understand, and they're like, yeah, bring your kids. My kids would love it. And we've had those nights lots that all the kids get together and play, and we get to just hang out and chat, and it's important. And a village is, I say it all the time, but a village is extremely important, because it's a really lonely road if you don't have it.
1,000%, because if you hang out with people that don't have kids, and then they start talking about your kids in a negative way, it puts you in a position now where you're making the decision like, okay, I love my kids, I like these friends, puts you in the middle, and then you might start getting resentment towards your kids, because then you start looking at them as if they're an anchor holding you back, or you start now hating those friends because now they're putting you in the position of actually even experiencing those emotions, and you're looking at them like, well, screw you, like, by, and then obviously they're going to go. The kids are a constant always.
Right. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it's easy. It's hard to lose people out of your life, especially people that you thought were going to be there. And I've had people in my life too that I thought were my best friends and thought that they were going to be there forever. And then I would go through something and I wasn't at my best, and I will say that 100%. I would be, down or out, or I would be, not as patient with things. And the minute that happened, they were like, and they left. And you're like, okay. And that would crush me. But you got to a point that I was like, they weren't friends in the first place.
No.
They wanted me for what they could get out of me or what I could do for them. They weren't there because they cared about me as a person. Those people are hard to find. But once you find them,
you hold on to them.
You hold on to them, and it's amazing. And then your village, you're like, oh, I can do this. I got this.
Exactly.
Right? As a man, is it hard to reach out? Is it hard to ask for help? Is it kind of like, I'm hanging on to everything myself and I can do it?
To a point, yes. My childhood, my uncle helped me out a lot with that, because with my parents, I didn't really have the best relationship with my parents.
Okay.
And with being a single child, you internalize so much, and then you put on the facade like, I'm okay, I'm a rock, everything's fine.
Right.
And I can tell you right now, it's the people with the biggest smiles that look that they're the happiest that need the most help. 1,000%.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was me growing up, and he helped me with that. So now I don't find it challenging at all to reach out and actually straight up say, hey, listen, I'm losing my effing mind.
Yeah.
Someone help me, please. Like, this is this, that is that, and so on
Right.
and so forth. And trust me, it's way better doing it that way
For sure it is.
than when I was younger and didn't understand myself fully.
Yeah.
You bury it all, and then you lash out in either anger or
Yes.
whatever. Like, you have,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, it comes out in some
It'll
way.
come out,
I'd
that's
rather
right.
be proactive about
Good for
that
you, yeah.
feeling, and then just, hey, I need help, and let it out, as opposed to then lash out and do something stupid,
Right.
right? So
Yeah. That's amazing.
that would be my suggestion. Like, I know it's hard to do, but
Yes.
you're way better off to do it proactively.
Yeah.
All
I
the
agree.
guys listening out there.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. It's hard for guys, but I think that it's super important.
1,000%.
And it teaches your kids too, and how you raise your kids not to, have to be that person that shoves everything down, and then those are the people that then it leads to depression and it leads to that stuff.
1,000%.
Right.
You get crushed. Like,
Yeah.
it's you're not less of a man when you ask for help.
No.
Like, when you're a person who thinks that being vulnerable is a weakness and you have to be strong and no, that will destroy you.
Yeah.
1,000% it will, because
Yeah.
then you're going to be fighting a battle all on your own. Because then people want to help. People
Yes.
genuinely actually want to help. The
I
people
agree.
who truly care about you, they want to help.
Yeah.
So then when you constantly push them away with your stubbornness and saying, I don't need any help, I got this, I've got this, don't be surprised when those people aren't there, because now you've pushed them away so
Right.
many times, right?
Right.
So
Or
it's-
think that you don't need help, you've got it all together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, reach out and embrace your friends and ask for help,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
seriously, because
For sure.
it helps you in the long run so much.
For sure it does.
Oh yeah.
So one thing we talk a lot about is about self-care, filling up your own bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know too, being a single parent, trying to build a business, dating, all of that stuff, it is really hard to take care of yourself. It's really hard to fill up your own bucket,
Oh.
but the importance of it is huge, and
I
I
agree
learned
with
that
that, yeah.
lesson the hard way too, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that I learned it. So how do you now find the time, when you already find your time so split up,
Yeah.
how do you find the time, and what kind of things do you do? You mentioned podcasts.
Mhm.
Even if they're little things, what do you do to make sure that you're not completely depleted?
Yeah, like now I'm focusing on fitness more, because with a startup, oh my goodness, once again, any entrepreneur knows this, a startup sucks you dry.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. You'll burn out 1,000 times.
For sure.
Over and over and over. And energy is a finite thing, and you have to replenish your energy. And this year, I've stepped back and I'm making it a priority. You
Good for you.
have to, because if you don't, you're miserable.
Yeah.
Super miserable, depressed, all of it. And then when you actually make the choice, like me, I've focused on going to the gym more because now, like with it being winter season, I have a lot more time.
Yeah.
So I'm using that time to then put into myself when the kids are at school and all that kind of stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't care. I'm not looking at it as selfish. I'm looking
Right.
at it as it's a must.
It
You
is.
have to put fuel in a car. You got to
Yeah.
put fuel in a truck. You got to charge phones. Like you got to charge yourself.
I agree.
1,000%. You know what I mean? So I've been focusing on going to the gym. I've been focusing on going to boxing and doing hobbies, including the kids as well as
Awesome.
my girlfriend, like the whole family type of thing.
Yeah.
And feeling and experiencing the in the moment joys
Yeah.
because they are few and far between, and we get lost in the rat race.
Oh, for sure we do. Yeah.
Where you can get in such a rut for so long and you don't even know it.
You don't even
and
realize
time passes, like you're
Yeah.
like, holy crap, 2 months is gone. I'm like, what the hell? Where did 2 months go?
Yeah. What did I do?
And we're like, oh my god, it's Christmas already. Oh my god, we gotta buy Christmas presents. What?
Yeah.
And it just that
It just
fast.
goes,
It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So I know, like, I have to stop and smell the roses type of thing. Like, even my
Yes.
girlfriend said that. She's like, your strength for your business, and it's fantastic for your business, is to be
Right.
able to project yourself so far into the future that you just
Right.
go through the processes and just trust you're going to get there. But along the way, you can lose yourself. And she's like, you got to stop and smell the roses. And that's her strength. And I love
Yeah.
it so much because of that, because she's friggin' right. And she's the one who's like, babe, come here.
Right. Yeah.
In the
Because
moment.
you're not going to get those moments back, especially with the
Exactly.
kids. They grow up so quickly that
Exactly.
you miss it. That's it. It's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's like, enjoy this. We're going on a vacation. We're going to do this. We're going to enjoy the moment. We got to
Good.
focus on this. And
Yeah.
if where focus goes, energy flows,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, my energy went entirely to the business, but now you got to take that away a little bit and, quote, neglect the business a little
Right.
bit, I
Yeah.
guess, to then give and diversify your energy, I guess, so
Right.
to speak, right? So, it's huge to invest in yourself. Podcast, same thing.
Yeah.
Progress equals happiness. If you're not progressing, you're going to be freaking miserable. So it's like listening to audiobooks, self-help audiobooks.
Can you name one that's been like your favorite or the most impactful on you? If you could just name one.
Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership. Everyone on my leadership team had to read that and listen to it because it all starts with you first. Everyone's always quick to point the finger.
Right.
But if you're ever wanting to make any type of lasting change, you got to start with you first.
For sure.
Look at yourself, see what changes you need to make,
Yeah.
see where you effed up,
Yeah.
and then make the changes, and then see where the finger can lay after that.
Yeah.
Right?
If it does, because a lot of times when you change yourself, your world and your circle just naturally changes. You don't even have to do anything
Exactly.
really. It's like I'm changing me and I'm doing this, and the rest kind of
Exactly.
changes with you.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's another good book.
Okay.
Podcast up the yin yang. Tony Robbins. What's it called? Law of Attraction. His
Okay.
podcast is really good.
So one that when you were at your lowest, that you
Mhm.
listened to maybe a lot to help you kind of remind yourself, or you know when you were in your bed and you didn't know what was going to happen in life. What was one that maybe you listened to on repeat, or something that somebody that's going through something similar could listen to and maybe get something out of?
There wasn't so many that I listened on repeat because, like Les Brown, when you like look up Les Brown,
Yeah.
he's fantastic,
Okay.
and he talks about his life experiences. When he explains all of it, you can kind of relate
Okay.
with the emotions that he talks about.
Okay.
That helped me out significantly.
Okay.
Tony Robbins, same thing. People out there might be scoffing and be like, "Oh, Tony Robbins is just a fake or hype or whatever." And it's like
Okay.
it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, all the motivational speakers out there are usually saying the same message. It's just a different delivery.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's what you can take out of it. And
Exactly.
you and I could listen to the exact same podcast and take a completely different thing out of it,
Mhm.
because where we are in that moment of life could be different. So
Mhm.
what we need to hear or what we need to absorb is going to be different.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's huge. It doesn't matter. Listen and take what you can out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jay Shetty, same thing.
Yeah, I love Jay Shetty.
Jay
Yeah.
Shetty, like some people
Love
look
him.
at him, he's like, "Oh, he's a fraud." This, that. It's like, no, whatever. Like, there's
Yeah.
always going to be haters. At the end of the day, the message, the way he delivers it,
Yeah.
is unique. That's why he is as big as he is, because no one else was doing it the way he's doing it, but he might be taking their message and just putting it out to the world in a different way.
Right.
Okay.
For sure.
It works.
Yeah.
It worked for me. Eric Thomas, same thing. Bishop T.D. Jakes, same thing. Like, if you look all these guys up, like, it's profound, the things that they say. And it's just listen with an open heart. It's one of those things that will actually sink into you and knock you off your negative self-thought, especially first thing in the morning. Because, like,
starts your day, sets the tone.
First 20 minutes of you waking up, that's what's going to set the tone for the day.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? So if you put something in your mind that's positive, first thing in the morning, subconsciously just walk to your TV, turn it on, just let it play. Yeah. That'll set the tone for the day. Because usually, the way people's day work, it usually starts with negativity. The second the alarm goes off, you're like,
yeah.
Oh, the alarm.
Or they hop on social media.
Yeah. Facebook. Oh, this person's getting married. Yeah. Oh, this person bought a house. Oh my God, I'm behind in life. Oh, this person just had a baby. Yeah. Oh, this person just bought a new car. Oh, my life sucks.
Right.
It's true. And they walk into the bathroom. They go to the mirror. They're like, oh, my body, this, that, the other. I got extra chub. I need to do. And it's just negative. It's just getting the negative self-talk out of your head is the main thing.
Yeah, for sure. And to start your day off positively can really set the tone
for 1,000%.
For the rest of your day. Yeah. So we talked a little bit. You mentioned here that you have a girlfriend, and she has met the kids. She's involved, correct? So tell me a little bit about your biggest challenges, I guess, or even hers as a step parent coming in, and some things that maybe are just different than somebody who doesn't have kids that you guys would have to deal with.
Okay.
And how you guys are overcoming them.
It's a lot.
So start with a couple.
So starting at the beginning, like, so with her, I consciously chose her as a partner. Like, and some people might look at that and be like, wow, like, what are you saying? Like, you just have a checklist, and some people might hate on that saying, right? I don't know how I look at it objectively, like, okay, this is what I want for my life. This, and this. This is what I want for a partner. Looks aside, like, looks are looks. I don't. The young, immature way of looking at a relationship is basing it on looks. Looks are fleeting. So if you base a relationship solely on looks, that means your relationship is effed.
Yeah, it'll stink at some point. Yeah.
Done. Yeah. So then it's like, okay, I wanted this, and this. We don't have to go through the entire checklist, but with her, we met, and it's funny how we met, actually. We met on Bumble, and she lives in the same building as me. We've never bumped into each other ever. And I've lived in that building for almost like a decade now, actually. Yeah. She's lived in there for 3 years, never bumped into each other. And then met on Bumble, and it was like, oh, okay, well, all right. Went on a few dates. That in itself is hugely challenging because that was during roofing season, which there's not a lot of time in itself to do freebies type stuff. Right.
Did you have lots of daddy guilt? Because you felt like you should be with your kids, but that's hard. Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I want to see this person, but then I need to spend time with my kids, but I also need to focus on my business. So you have this triangle that you're stuck in the middle, and you're constantly trying to keep these balls in the air, so to speak. Yeah. And so, like, her challenge is that she was never married, doesn't have any kids. Okay. So as far as life experience, totally different spectrums. Right. So she came in, understandably so. She felt like an outcast in our family because at that point in time I was still dealing with my ex-wife and trying to cultivate that relationship with the kids and her and trying to hold that, but then also trying to deal with the new girlfriend here and then also the business, and it's like, oh my God. Yeah. So the challenge with her is that she felt like she was trying to date somebody else's man in that sense. So we had to go through that struggle, and I had to go through that reassurance with her being like, okay, no, I'm not her man. I'm just literally trying to do what's right for the kids.
For the kids. Yep.
But then her being on her one with them not being her kids, she's not emotionally invested, so she's seeing it strictly, logically, objectively. Not experiencing the emotion. So she's on the outside and she's like, well, what the hell? Hey, look at me. Pay attention to me. Which is fine. Understandably so. Right? So that was a challenge all on its own because it's like, you want to make everybody happy, and there's only so much of you to go around. So that was a huge challenge for us.
Did that naturally get better as she got closer to the kids and like more involved?
And that was my solution, but it has to happen when they're ready, not when you're ready.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And that was a challenge for me to understand that too, because in my head I could easily put the pieces together,
Right.
but it doesn't matter what I can do in
Right.
my head and make it happen. It's
Yep.
the other person. She's in control. So once we combined it, the kids and her, and
Yep.
they got to see her, and we naturally obviously had more time with one another. The other challenge is dates, because she went from being like a single woman, dating and whenever, having all the freedom in the world and whatever the hell she wants, and
Yeah.
never dated a guy with kids, so she didn't understand the
Yes.
struggles of when you have kids. Guess what? There's like not a lot of free time to do whatever the hell you want
Right.
to do.
Yep.
So we had those struggles, because then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, you don't have time for me, you don't care about me, type of thing. Like those emotions were playing on in her head, and it's like, no, I care about you, but here's reality. Like,
Right.
there's only so much time in a day, there's only so much I can do, and there's only, like, to try and find a babysitter all the time, A, that
Yeah.
costs money,
Yeah.
B, it takes time to try and do that, and you're not always
Yeah.
going to find one.
That's right.
So the reality is when you're dating a single parent, whether it's a single dad or a single woman,
Yeah.
it's basically an instant marriage.
It is. It's an instant family.
Yeah,
right
and that's
away.
what I
Yeah.
told her. And that was hard for her to process, like
Right.
in the beginning. Like now she understands,
Right.
and we're in a better place now, but there was some significant fights
Yeah.
leading to that point where it's like, okay, this is actually what I want. Okay, no, I love this man. No, I love these
Right.
kids. Okay, crap, fine,
Right.
type of thing, right?
Right.
Like,
But it's dating is it's way different, especially if you're dating somebody that loves their kids and wants to be around their kids and isn't a parent that's like meh and just wants to go date and have fun. And I've experienced that too, dating, and guys are like, well, why can't you come see me? I'm like, because I have my kids and I'm
Right.
going to be at home with my kids. Like when they're with their dad, if you want to go on a date, that's fine. But I'm not going to continuously leave my kids to spend time with you. Sorry,
Exactly.
but it's hard for them to understand on the other side because they're used to, hey, we just get to see each other whenever we
Whenever
want.
you
Dating's
want.
easy and it's so fun and it's this and that.
Yep.
Listen, you're not dating just me though.
Exactly.
Right?
Dating
You're
two
gonna-
other ones.
Exactly.
Which it takes time to process
For
all
sure it
that,
does.
because that's a huge challenge, and I can empathize, and I'm like, I can understand, and it's how am I going to put it? It's when you are the single parent trying to bring someone into your world, it's your job to have the patience and understanding to then be able to walk them through that emotional
Right. Especially if they're not
journey.
parents already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you see something with them and you want to build something
Right.
with them, that's what it is.
Yeah. And I
Right.
think too on the other side is a lot of people will date single parents or whatever, and I've experienced this, and they think they're ready. They're like, I can do this, this
Yeah.
is fine. But then once they're in it, especially for me, I have 3 kids, so it's a lot, and my life is very busy, and I'm a very hands-on mom, so I like to go to all their events, all their things. That's just how I am. So to come into my world, they're like, yeah, I can do this. But then once they're in the world, they're like, wait, I don't really get much of you anymore.
It's shell shock.
Well, so
Yeah.
you have to be, creative. Have at-home dates. Plan things once the kids go to bed. Make sure you have that time. For me, no business happens in my bedroom. I do not talk about business. I will not answer my business phone in there. It won't go in there because I need to make a priority that my life can't always be that. I have to make time for relationships and friendships and everything that comes with it.
I'm at that point too, setting up the boundaries, and my
Yeah.
girlfriend's helping me out with that too, because she, like I said, we went through some significant fights where, like, one of our main things is that you're here, but you're not here.
Yes.
And entrepreneurs can all understand this, because like the way we are wired is different than most people.
For sure.
Where you now can be talking or doing something, and then something triggers in your head, and then you're off just thinking about it in your head, even though you're in this.
For sure.
And then your girlfriend or your significant other or whatever is like, hey, did you hear me? Hey, like,
Hello?
hey, hi.
Yeah.
And then they get that feeling
Yeah.
of, I don't matter because
Right.
he or she is not paying attention. And it's
Right.
like, no, that's not what it is.
Right.
It's just that's the way I'm wired.
Right. And there's always something that you're bringing. When you're an entrepreneur, there's always something that's going
Oh, yeah.
on. And but it does make it hard.
Oh,
And
1,000%.
and being a step parent, I think it has its challenges in itself.
Mhm.
So to learn that on top of the relationship and navigating that, and then business, and it's a lot.
Being a step
not
parent, I
easy.
can see like where you're like, these are not my kids, but I do care about them. But there's another person that's here that obviously is taking priority, but is that person worth that priority? Or like, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I don't want to mess these kids up. I don't want to piss off their dad because I care about him or her or whatever, the single parent, and you're in that position of just confusion until time does its thing, and then it's like, all right, we're now a family unit. Like, we went, love my girl to death. Like, we went through some serious fights, and it's just, I know there's other people out there that can completely relate to that.
100%.
1,000%.
For sure.
And it's just, because sometimes when you're dating, like, here's the main thing. When you're dating someone who has never had kids, and you're the one with kids, and you've been through divorce and all this kind of stuff, your mentality is that of, your maturity and mentality is that of someone who's much older.
Oh, for sure.
Of someone who's the same age who's never been through that. So then when you're dating someone who's never been through that, it almost sometimes feels like you're arguing with a child. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, people. It's just that's what runs through your head where you're like, oh my God, like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. It feels
and
like
you just
it's
want
so
them to understand so bad, and it's hard to get them to understand. And to like, it also depends on your life journey. Like for me, I grew up really, really quickly, and I went through a lot in my life to the point that, I'm 30, but I'm 40. Yep. And so it's hard for me, and I know that you can relate, it's hard to relate to people my age. So even dating, when I date people my age, or even around my age, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm raising a child. Right. Because I've gone through all of these things in life already. I've dealt with that and some at a much younger age. So for me, I'm like, listen, if I could do it at 15, why can you not do it at 20 whatever, or 30 whatever, right? And it's hard to kind of wrap your head around. But then you have to take a step back and understand their journey was just different than mine. So because I'm here, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to understand, but it happens in time. The more you communicate and talk about these things, and communication is so important to talk about everything and just be open, because the more you communicate and talk, you can understand one another. And hopefully the other person levels up, and you have that patience to give them that grace to grow and give them that grace to understand, which isn't always easy when you have your kids and you have your life and you just want it to happen, right? But when you take that step back, it makes a big difference.
If you see the person actually making those changes, that's the huge thing, right?
For sure. Effort.
Because everyone always, I know on her end, people are like, why the hell are you dating this guy? Why are you going through the headaches? And on mine, people always hear about the negatives.
It's the outside anyways,
right? It does, whatever. Like, everyone's going to hear the opinion, everyone's going to hear the stories, the negative stories. They're not going to hear about the cuddles and the kisses on the forehead and the dates, blah, 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 like whatever. That's happy stuff. Your whole circle usually hears about the negative, and then they question what the hell you're doing with the person. But then, when you're in it with that person, if they're making the changes, 1,000% it's worth it.
For sure.
If they're making the changes.
If
not, then it's like, you know what, see you later. Like, that's just the way it is. And when I was in the dating scene, that was basically what happened. Like, here's the other struggle, because when you're in the dating scene, you're not just introducing every single person you're dating to the kids. That doesn't happen. She's the only girl I introduced to the kids in a romantic type setting, like, this is my partner who I love and care about. Right. So, like, going through that scene, you do your whole dating thing, and you're like, nope, you're not the right one. See ya. Next.
Do you find you had less patience?
Oh, 1,000%.
I was like, you can't be a dad. Get out of here.
1,000%. Like, you start realizing how full of crap people are, because when you get into the dating scene, and you go to like Earl's or Joey's or whatever, some restaurant, it's almost like a job interview.
It is, yes!
And you can't treat it like that.
Yes, it is.
You don't want the other person to feel like that, so it's like a trick that you learn where you're just having a BS session with them and you're talking and you get to hear what it is that they want, goals, aspirations, you listen and you're like, okay, all right, you're talking a good game. Yeah. And then you start, like, you get to see red flags a lot quicker. Yes. And then you're like, nope.
Right. Yeah.
See you later. Like, it's just see ya. Yeah. And some people might be like, oh, that's an asshole move. And it's like, no, it's not an asshole move at all. It's I'm not going to wind up making another mistake.
That's just it. Exactly. Or
once
for
bitten,
me, I
twice
found
shy.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I was just going to say, I found dating. The minute something reminded me of like my past relationships or something, I'm like, bye. Yeah. Because I was like, I never want to get back in that cycle. I want better for my kids. I want better for myself. I want to set an example for my kids. And you find like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not dealing with this. And even to be completely honest, I feel like I was so jaded that I would even go on dates and I'm like, this ain't gonna go anywhere and I know it. Let's just go out and have a date and have fun. Nobody met my kids. And I was like, that was it for me. Because and the thought too of introducing somebody to your kids.
It's a big deal.
Is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the fear of it not working is even a bigger
you
deal.
You don't want to put
like,
them through that again.
No, you don't.
Because
And
they've
for
already
me,
been through a divorce.
I had
stepdads
and my mom was divorced, and so I know what that feels like as a kid. And I wanted different. I didn't want to do that. But then it's hard because really you don't know.
Exactly.
You have no idea what's going to happen.
All you can do is just hope and put in the work and just try to maintain the whole thing, and it's a struggle. But yeah, like you don't just introduce just anybody to the kids, and then it's once you introduce your kids to that person, that's damn near like putting a ring on that finger.
It's true. Yes, we talked about that even with dating. That people, well, why aren't we engaged yet? Why aren't we this? Why aren't we that? And you're like, you met my kids.
Yeah, that's
that's the biggest commitment ever is meeting my children.
Yep.
And because it is
1,000%.
I know there are people out there that will just, it's a revolving door.
It's not a good thing.
I know people are, might not agree with what we're saying, but that's just not what I wanted for my kids, and I don't think that it's healthy for kids, and I don't think that it's healthy for them to get attached, and then those people keep disappearing. And that's hard.
Stability.
For sure.
Right? Like stability for kids is a must, where they need to know that this person's a constant, so their life's not in complete turmoil.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And when you introduce that person to them, you're like, in the back of your head, you're like, okay, motherfucker.
Right, yeah.
You are not just allowed to just up and leave
That's
now.
right.
Like, this is me saying, hey, we're in this and we're doing this together.
We're in it together.
Like,
That's it.
This is the way it is.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's a lot to handle for somebody who has no idea.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
for sure it is.
That's a scary thing, because that's like, being a parent, dealing with kids and all that is no joke. So when you go from 0 to then 100, huge shell shock. Of course there's going to be resistance.
Right. And like, if you've never had kids before, you literally become a parent overnight, whereas typically, like technically you become a parent overnight, but you have the 9 months to plan and to think and to, think about what kind of parent you want to be and all these things. When you date somebody with kids, one day you wake up and you have 2 kids in your case and they're older.
Yep.
And then you have to learn all of that and all that comes with it. And we know, just being biological parents, that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard being their biological parent.
Oh, yeah.
Being a step parent and having to learn all that. And what you touched on about the boundaries, I think is something that a lot of step parents struggle with. They want to be that parent because that's the role that they're filling. But if the parent is in their life still, the other parent, you don't want to step on their toes, and you don't want to like, hey, now I'm the parent.
You're kind of guarded.
Right, you have to be that in some way.
Yeah.
Because you're not a friend. And for me, like dating, I'm not going to date a guy that's going to be my kid's friend. That's not going to happen. You're not going to replace their dad because their dad is still involved in their life. But you need to be a parental figure. So that discipline still needs to be there. You need to be able to balance the love and the discipline. But as a step parent, that's a fine line. That's a hard line to toe.
It's tough. There's tons of help out there to be able to look for that kind of help. Like tons. Actually, like with my girlfriend, I sent her some videos.
Yeah.
And we were having a talk, and she was like kind of having a hard time because like now she's starting to relate now more so with the older women in her office that have kids, and she's been making friends with those people and gain the proper perspective. Because there's no point in dealing with what you're dealing with emotionally when you're talking to somebody who is not in that situation or has not been through it, because then that is a tainted source because they have no idea.
Or an uneducated source.
They
don't know.
They have no idea. So then they're going to say something, and then you're going to now be like, oh, like you're going to be torn basically. They're going to say, why are you dealing with this or that? Like just do this, that, the other, and it's like. And then in your head, you're like, that doesn't even make sense. But then you're like, well, this is my friend who I've known for a long time. Maybe I should trust what they're saying. And then you bring that now to the relationship, and then you're butting heads over something that is very easily solvable if you actually got a right source to talk to. Which, like with my girlfriend, I'm so thankful she's doing it and talking to the right people. I'm like, yay, because she's made some huge milestones. But then it's on us too. Like with me, I went on YouTube and searched up like step parenting help,
Yeah.
single parents, like the struggles that single parents go through, and all, like tons of videos.
Yeah.
And just sent her a few to look at, just so she could gain some perspective, and it helped her out a lot too, right?
Yeah.
So it's
huge.
The one thing when you're stepping into the world, when you're like the single person, not the one with the kids,
Yeah.
you got to do a lot of the homework yourself too.
Yes.
1000%. Like, it's not our job to be the teacher.
Yeah.
When you are a mature adult that makes the decision to now enter into that world, especially when that person who is the single parent laid it all on the line and said, here's this, because that's our job to do that. It's our job to be like, here's this, and this. Want a date?
Isn't it scary? You're like, no one's gonna date me.
Right? Like, I laid it all dating, like, but even before, I laid it all on the line. I'm like, I'm going through this, I got this, my kids, this, that, blah, blah, blah. This is my past, yada, yada, blah, 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 the whole shebang. Because then you are empowering them to then now make an intelligent decision.
Right.
And once they make that decision, you're like, okay, now we can move forward. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's on them after you make that decision to then now do that homework.
For sure.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? I'm wanting to be a step parent. Okay, I need help with this.
Yeah.
Okay, where can I get some sources? Because I'm not a parent yet and I haven't had time to prep for this. I have an 11-year-old I have to deal with and a 7-year-old. Holy crap.
But there's so much help. That's the
Yeah.
thing. People can find help if they want it.
1000%.
But people need to take responsibility and understand, especially when you're dating, single parents, that it is the kids too. And if you're going to enter that, you need to be prepared for it. And then you got to put in the effort after, whether, like you just said, the research, whether it's communicating with your partner about what you're struggling with, whether it's, things that you're afraid of, whatever it is, communicate, talk about that stuff. That doesn't mean it has to be the end. It doesn't mean that it's the end of your relationship, but there's things that you need to work and talk through. But I think that a lot of people struggle with that. And talking about those vulnerable things.
1000%, because a lot of times, like with my girlfriend, I've proposed to her that we need to be proactive. Because, like, obviously when you get into fights about stuff, floodgates open. Right. Like, floodgates open and it all comes out, and it's a very toxic way.
It is.
But at the end of it, when you communicate it all and address it all, you feel amazing. But it's just so taxing because it's all at once. If you, like, proactively take little steps here and there. For sure. Like, say, hey, I told her, I'm like, hey, we should have, like, a wine night where we watch step parenting help on YouTube or something. Or, like, cohabitating, blah, blah, like there's so much help you could look up. Just like whatever. I can't think of all of it off the top of my head right now, but in the moment, just watch something that then triggers the conversation and the questions that come up that you can then ask your partner and then talk about it, and then now you are on the same page, as opposed to then you have to fight and it's like, well, I thought this, that, the other, blah, 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 this, that, the other, and it's like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this, that, the other, blah, 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 and it's like, oh.
And no one's hurt when you do that. And I love that. I love that you guys do it together. I love that you're not like, hey, sink or swim. And you're like, no, let's figure this out together. Let's work on this together. And it's not on one of you by yourselves.
It can't be.
No,
in order for it to work, like, you can't. Being a single parent, you cannot bring someone into your circle who has not done any of it and then expect them to deal with all of it when it's necessarily not their headache. They chose to be there. So now you have to have a certain level of understanding and patience. For sure. And if you want this person to be your ride or die and do this together with you, it takes two. You have to be partners in it, and you have to be like, okay, let's do this. Deal with the communication, communicate one another, proactively help each other out, and just lay it all on the table and be vulnerable with your partner. You have to.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so before we wrap up here, to the men specifically, I know women go through this and we know that, but like I said, this is a little backwards. What would you tell men that are kind of more at the beginning stages of where you were? So just starting getting divorced, feeling like they're losing their kids, going back to the home. What would you give them, or what do you wish that you would have known back then that you might know today that would have helped you? Besides building your village.
Yeah, like, that's huge. Understanding that you're not alone. Understanding that what's right is what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? That the people in the system will do what they can, no matter if it's a female or a male, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, because they are trained to see through bullshit. Right? So they are always apprehensive of the male, understandably so. Like, I get it, it sucks, but it is what it is, because statistically, it's the other way around. Right?
Yeah.
Normally, it's in the mom's nature to take care of the babies, and that's to fight, sink or swim for the babies, take care of it, mama bear type of thing, so on and so forth. But as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and not being vindictive, the system will work out in your favor, as long as it's the right thing. Right?
Yeah.
And reaching out for help before it's too late. That was the huge thing, because I am very grateful and very blessed that I had my ride or die, my best friend, who was there from everything, literally from the beginning of my relationship with my ex-wife to then the complete end, and still there. He understood it all. And it was because I told him everything was vulnerable, and we talked about all of it. And it was, not a lot of people have that, but it's always good to have that. You need it. Like, you need it.
And he was never a friend, and that's it too. Like, if you're gonna be there for somebody, you can't just be their yes person. And Adam, I know Adam well, that he wasn't that to you. Yes, he was there, he supported you in every way he could, but he'd also be like, Joe, like, enough, let's go. Like, this is not gonna be your life. Get up, get ready, we're doing this.
Exactly.
People need those kinds of friends, because those are gonna be the friends that will help you get out of that hole.
Exactly.
And it's so important.
That's exactly it. You don't want to surround yourself with people that are just like telling you what you want to hear, because then you're not going to grow.
No,
and
for sure.
You're inhibited as a result, because they're weakening you as a result, because you're just stuck in your own head, and they're like, yeah, you're right, yeah, you're right, yeah, you're right, and you're like, huh. Or you hang out with people that are like, okay, no, you're not right, here's why, this, that, the other, and challenge the way you're thinking, and uplift you, because you want to hang out with people that challenge you, so you can grow.
That's exactly right. I agree. All right, well, thank you so much for being here. It was awesome talking to you guys. And guys, that's it for today. We will put links of some of the podcasts and books that Joe has mentioned throughout. I want you to know, especially for the men out there, you can reach out to me personally. I can get you into contact with some people. Joe is also somebody who would love to mentor people and be there. So if anyone out there needs help, guidance, or resources, please reach out to us and we will help in any way we can. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a really great week. Bye, guys.